going to speak upon today is understanding mobile accessibility, which is the buzz as of today, and everybody is moving towards mobile. So that's what our effort is going to be, to just give you an insight on what is mobile accessibility and how do we go about achieving it. One moment. Okay. So I'll read it again. OneWeb means making as far as is reasonable the same information and services available to users, irrespective of the device they are using. However, it does not mean that exactly the same information is available in exactly the same representation across all devices. So that's the least effort we can make as the authors of technology, that if we are creating a website for the desktop web, there is some technical issue. It's a situational disability currently. So what we have to ensure is that if we are developing for the desktop web and we are taking that same information for another device, we have to present the same information and not give it a different orientation altogether. That's the OneWeb experience. In a simple example, I can say, today if I'm using an X website, okay, on the desktop web, and I want to use the same thing on my mobile web, I want the same experience, at least in the form of the information that is given in the desktop web. At times we see websites when they just create mobile-specific website and they give a different menu altogether, which is so disorienting, and it involves so much cost and time. So we have to propagate the usage of OneWeb, and that is what's there, the sources out here, which is from the mobile web best practices. As I said, starting off, we have to we have to be persistent about accessibility. Desktop accessibility was a reactive approach. We got into web, we started the internet, and then we realized, oh, there's something like accessibility that exists. Now, with mobile accessibility, after 10, 15 years of internet being there and the accessibility revolution that has come, mobile accessibility needs to be a proactive approach. We cannot reinvent the wheel again. We cannot go back and tell people again that what is the meaning of alternate text and why is it important. Be proactive. All of us sitting out here in this room are part of some or the other teams that are developing websites. So we understand that it was a reactive thing that we did for web accessibility. When we talk about mobile web accessibility, we better be proactive. We should not repeat the desktop accessibility mistakes, but learn. Desktop web, we always, what I have seen in my experience of 8 years, for desktop web, every time accessibility was considered after development, into the testing phase. So now for mobile web, let's have it as a de facto strategy. Start right from the requirements gathering stage. Yes, it requires a lot of effort. It might sound easy standing here and talking about it, but when you have to work with multiple teams with different thought processes, it is a difficult task. We have to innovate with emerging technologies, ARIA, CSS3, media queries, HTML5. And lastly, I would like to quote what Rob today in the morning mentioned, that we are creating a lot of apps. A lot of apps are coming out. He put together the numbers for the kind of applications there in the Apple Store and the Google Store. But what are we forgetting in all of this? We are forgetting that we need to design it for human capabilities and not for the device. That is being lost. In the rush to innovate things, we are forgetting the user needs. The mobile experience. I always like to quote what Henny Swan of BBC, the accessibility specialist out there, had mentioned in one of her presentations, which is mobile by definition is disabling. Poor light, small keyboard, glare, touch. So by itself, the mobile concept or the device is disabling. And on top of that, if we bring about a web which is not accessible, the purpose is defeated out there. people do choose their devices based on the accessibility features they offer. So I'm sure my friend Dinesh out there, when he went out to buy a phone, he must have considered the accessibility options that iPhone offers against the others. And then he made a very wise choice. Right, Dinesh?
Perfectly. It was accessible out of the box. I didn't have to buy anything. It was accessible in the store. I could try it there. And on top of it, they have good guidelines. So more apps are accessible.
Correct.
As compared to other platforms.
I was rich enough to buy it.
That's besides the point. Okay, so I am just going to take you all through. There are many mobile devices available, okay, with different mobile OSs. So I'm just going to focus on three, which is iOS, Android, and the Windows Mobile. When we look at iOS, I don't really have to say much. They have been demonstrating a very serious commitment towards accessibility. Their steady progression. With each of their release in OS, they have brought about innovative features in accessibility. The latest one has something, if you all have explored, the assistive touch, which is beautiful. It gives you such a lovely array of the features that can be availed for a mobility impaired person. The experience is consistent and predictable. So if I have a voiceover in iPad, vis-a-vis I'm using a voiceover in my iTouch or iPhone, I will experience the same, I will have the same experience. So that brings about a lot of difference, and it brings the users to their side. So the experience is consistent and predictable. VoiceOver, the revolutionary screen reader that they bought in for the visually impaired. The assistive touch, the mono audio. Later when we do the iPad demo, all of these features would be explained. We have then the Android accessibility. They are there. They are moving down the line, moving up the line rather. But with every OS, they are trying to bring about accessibility features. But it's more haphazard. Why? The reason is they have close to 85 phones that run on various versions of Android. So some run on 2.2, some run on 2.3. With the latest one, 4.1, there are very few one out there, which claims to have better accessibility, the touch, explore by touch feature. Today, Android devices can support a number of accessibility features, but there is a lot of inconsistency between which feature is inbuilt, which needs to be downloaded, and some providers include more accessibility features than others. So it's a whole confusion out there. There are accessibility options, but like Dinesh mentioned, it was one shop stop for him. He bought the iPhone and he had all the solutions in one place. Currently with Android, we are facing this issue that I need to go outside and look for accessibility features or accessibility solutions for me. The 4.0 ice cream sandwich includes Explore by Touch, Talk Back, Kickback, and Soundback functionalities. Windows Mobile accessibility. The Windows Phone 7, accessibility wasn't even considered. Earlier versions of Windows Phone had accessibility components, but that were not included in Windows Phone 7. Windows 7.5, Mango, moved towards more accessibility features with voice recognition and some text-to-speech. So when we look at these various manufacturers, by far Apple comes across as a strong accessibility solution provider. So let's get started. Now we know that there are various devices with accessibility options which are there, which are third-party, which phones give us the inbuilt thing. So now how do we achieve mobile accessibility? I've tried to put together a framework for mobile accessibility. For the visual representation I've used is with a funnel which has a mixture of things, and comes down the mobile accessibility. So the funnel currently contains WCAG 2.0, MWPP. For those who don't know, it's the Mobile Web Best Practices, and along with it is the Mobile OS Accessibility Guidelines. These all put together will give you mobile accessibility. So we all know about WCAG 2.0. Most of my colleagues out here have been talking about it. It has 4 principles, 12 guidelines, 61 success criteria. Vis-a-vis, Mobile Web Best Practices is based on 5 themes. It has 60 best practices. And then when we come down to the specific mobile OS accessibility guidelines. From the iOS, we have the accessibility program guide for iOS. From the Android, we have another set of guidelines. Windows also provides us with certain guidelines for mobile and accessibility. Then we have Nokia and Symbian that they have provided user experience checklist. And then BlackBerry gives us the best practices designing accessible applications. So a mixture of all this will give us, it's not a straitjacketed approach. Given the complexity of mobile devices, the number of devices that we have, the way it is changing, okay, we have to have a very strategic approach towards mobile accessibility. But it's simple. You know your WCAG, you know your mobile accessibility. For mobile native apps specifically, you need to follow the mobile OS guidelines that has been provided. Some of the mobile best practices that we have put together is the use of native UI components. Most of the times I've seen developers don't use it. Why? What is the main reason? We have developers in this room, right? How many developers in this room? Why don't we use the native UI components? What restricts you all from using it? I see a button is made out of an image, whereas a standard UI button is not used. And then it is said, oh, we cannot achieve accessibility because you are not using the right object for the right thing. We need to set the accessibility attributes for every element. I'm sure we have heard about MSAA, which helps us set the various accessibility properties. Similarly, for these OSs that we have just seen, the iOS, for example, I'll just move a slide ahead. It has the accessibility attributes such as label, traits, hint, frame, and value. It has the accessibility inspector also. It's all there. It is all there to our access, but we are not using it. We need to follow the mobile OS accessibility best practices. We need to adopt the WCAG and the MWPP. Use web standards. Use progressive enhancement. Test your designs with assistive technology. You have a smartphone. Here's your product. There's no excuse that you will not check it with it. Test with real people who have real accessibility needs. This is something mostly that we skip. We don't test it with real people. We try to do it ourselves. We will put for example, for desktop, they used to switch off the monitor and try to do a accessibility test using JAWS on it or any other screen reader. Iterate and test again. So this in a nutshell is what you need to do. These are your basics. We can go in depth into each one of them. Okay, because for the kind of elements that contribute to mobile accessibility is vast. So this is the iOS accessibility attributes just as a sample put down there. Similarly, you will have for Android, BlackBerry. We'll do a small demo. Rakesh will take us through the various accessibility features on iPad. Okay, Rakesh, over to you.
Okay, to go there?
Yeah, you have to go that side. I'll help you. Since we cannot project using the iPad, Rakesh is going to do it directly through the video. So,
2 steps down. Okay. Yes. Okay, so can you see something? Hello.
We are trying this for the first
Yes.
time using through the video.
Okay.
We hope that the right sound comes
I think
out.
this sound.
518.
Can people hear this sound?
Slide to unlock.
Is it audible for everyone? Okay, great.
Slide to unlock. Slide to unlock.
Hi everybody,
Slide
Rakesh.
to unlock.
Hi, I'm taking you for the demo of the iPad, how we use iPad. So I have already switched on the voiceover and I will let you know how we switch on the voiceover and various other accessibility features in iPad. Okay, here goes it.
Screen locked.
Screen is locked. Now I'm beginning from the start. In the iPad you can see a home button on your left. Okay, I'm trying to switch it on by pressing this home button.
5:19.
Okay, it has announced the time when you have switched on your iPad.
Slide to unlock.
Slide to unlock.
Notes.
Okay, now we are on the home screen. Like as we all have experience of a home screen. Basically, we call it as a desktop of a computer. All the icons were placed in rows and columns here also on your iPad.